Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5 of Sitting Courtside. My name is Dante,
I'm your boy Jerry D.
and we are back here talking some ball. We made it to episode 5. They didn't think we'd make it this far, Jerry.
Wasn't supposed to make it past episode 5.
That's what they said. This is the Kevin Garnett. This is the Kevin Garnett episode. Like he said, anything is possible. We have a few great topics to talk about today. Some controversial quotes that were said throughout the weeks by some NBA stars. Some breaking news that actually just came out right before we started filming this pod. And then we have, of course, a few games at the end to wrap it up as we always do. But Jerry, I say let's just kind of jump right into it and talk about the breaking news here. So James Harden, a little update in the James Harden, Daryl Morey situation in Philadelphia. They started an investigation over James Harden's claims that Murray lied to him. And basically looked into this, and what came about it was James Harden was fined $100,000 for his comments against the Sixers owner. Now, Jerry, what are your kind of initial thoughts on this? Do you think this kind of like tells you all you need to know about the situation, about whether or not James Harden was quote unquote telling the truth? Does this kind of answer those questions, or like, what does this mean? How is this going to roll out? How is this going to affect the situation in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I don't think it really answered anything. Like, he called him a liar directly. We seen the thing in China come out, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. And they fine him because what we got from is that they must have had some handshake agreement or word to mouth verbal kind of thing that, okay, we're going to pay you the max, a 33, 34-year-old star, however old he is. And yeah, it sounded good in the moment. It's like, just nothing but lip service from Daryl Morey. Yeah, that's what I think we both agreed on last week.
Right.
But him getting fined $100K is like really nothing.
For James Harden, it's a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, like he's set to make $35.6 million this upcoming season. And plus, this is just a little nugget that I actually found out a little bit before we started recording. He's actually the sixth highest paid player in terms of salary in NBA history. So
that's crazy.
Something like this doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, okay, fine. Like, wow, you can't call your boss a liar. Like, okay, cool. That's literally all that happened. It's
James Harden just sold 10,000 bottles of wine in 10 seconds when he was in China too. I'm sure that covered most of it.
Yeah, like it's. What about you though? Like, I have nothing really to say about this. It's funny to me. It's really
I feel like this is just the NBA's way of saying like, hey, we had to like do something about it. Like we have to show like, hey, like you can't be saying stuff about your owner, so we're just going to give you this fine. Where in hindsight, like this doesn't change anything. Like James Harden is very adamant on the fact that he's not going to be playing in Philadelphia, that he's not going to be showing up to training camp. Whatever that lie was about, like you said, it could have been, hey, we're going to give you the max, or there's other reports saying that. He was promised that when he opts in, he's going to get traded quickly. And obviously that didn't happen. And now the whole thing is that they want to keep him in Philly. That doesn't really solve that issue. This fine doesn't do anything. James Harden, the sixth highest player in NBA history. This is pennies for him. Not even. This might be a fraction of a penny for him. This is change, that loose change you find in your couch cushion. You know what I mean? This is nothing to him.
Not to put, Woj or Shams on blast, but this is just news that I don't even really think needed to be like broken. This
isn't breaking news.
Yeah, like it's just this happened. Okay, cool. I really have no other type of reaction towards it. It's whatever.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think we both agree that this situation is very much not resolved. Harden most likely is not going to be a 76er to begin the season. I mean, very likely he definitely isn't at this point. I guess.
I don't know though. Like, it's still very possible that he could start the season a Sixer, because if he decides not to play or doesn't show up to training camp for those 30 days or so, he can't sit out the entire season because the Sixers would just have his rights and all that.
We did talk about that. Yeah, you're right.
We got into the nitty gritty of things last week. So, I mean, I think he starts the season a Sixer and just kind of has to tough it out. Maybe he comes in a fat suit and forces his way out.
I love seeing the graphics of it's him looking in his locker and the fat suit's hanging in his locker and there's like a big light shining on it. It's incredible. Well, we'll see what he pulls. We'll see what happens. But again, this is just like another wrinkle in the story. Doesn't affect anything. But let's talk about something that we can debate a little bit more about. So Steph Curry, he was on the Gilbert Arenas podcast this week, and he was asked the question of whether he believes he is the greatest point guard of all time. And he just straight up said, yes. He says, it's me and Magic Johnson in that conversation, talk a little bit more, saying, obviously, I have to answer that way. Basically saying, like, of course I have to say I'm the greatest of all time. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on, because this, honestly, like, since that tweet came out, I've been seeing just people going back and forth over who is the greatest point guard of all time. People, Magic Johnson, obviously, in the 80s, he was the rivalry he had with Larry Bird, kind of like ignited a fire in the NBA. It kind of got people interested in basketball. And obviously the Jordan era came about, and all three of those guys kind of just really shaped the NBA, and they, inspired generations to come, all that. Steph Curry, on the other hand, changed the game in the sense of the way the game is played now. He is, I don't want to say he's to blame, but he is like the cause of why so many players shoot the way they do, why so many of these younger players are coming in and shooting from almost half court. Steph Curry just came into the league and just changed everything with his style of shooting. Even though shooting was, a thing before Steph, obviously, he just transcended it.
It's a new range right
there. Whole new thing. And now people are saying, well, Curry changed the game because of his shooting. He's the greatest shooter ever. And I think that's, if you want to argue that, we can. But we got to the point where it's not an argument that he's the greatest shooter ever. People he's not really a point guard. He is just, a shooting guard in the sense. Magic Johnson, on the other hand, is like a true floor general. Like, he is the true definition of a point guard. So I kind of wanted to hear what you have to say about his comments. Do you agree with Steph that he's the greatest of all time? Just, what do you think?
Nah, I can't give him that distinction. Like, not even coming from a Lakers bias kind of perspective, but coming from the pure sense of what my point guard does. I'm not even going to say that Steph isn't a point guard. He's a PG. He's 6'3", right. And he does run the show initially. So I'm not going to give you that BS kind of like answer, because I think the answer to that debate is kind of weak to me. I think it's the easy way out. It's like what people used to do with Allen Iverson back in the day. But to be honest, I really just think Magic's versatility is what puts it over the top for me. When I think about, you kind of touched on it, what him and Bird did in the 80s to really spur the NBA even more forward than what it was, because the 1960s was ruled by the Celtics and Russell, right? And even the same thing with the 50s. And then you go into the 70s and it's like a gray area where there wasn't a lot going on, where we're looking at Dr. J, who's fresh out of the ABA. And it's kind of like, wow, yeah, you're our guy. But that was an older Dr. J, kind of just still in his prime, obviously, still a really good player, obviously a Hall of Famer, but not what he once was in his prime in the ABA. So Magic and Bird come on over and they literally usher in this new style of play of like pushing the pace, right? Fast breaks are everything. That's why the Showtime Lakers existed. And then you have people like Norm Nixon or James Worthy and then Kareem later on. Everything just made sense, right? And then Magic is just able to play 1 through 5 in my mind, especially at that point in time. Starting at center in the NBA Finals, having a triple-double with 40 points.
Unheard of.
It's just the type of skill set that Magic brings to the table for a team. Obviously, offensively, he could set the table for everybody, but also being able to guard multiple positions. And in my head, if we haven't got through this already, I love my two-way guys, and I think two-way guys is who's going to excel at each position like all time. So Steph isn't exactly your typical two-way player. So I got to give Magic the nod. Like, it's obviously, you said it, Steph changed the game. Everybody wants to shoot threes now. AAU kids want to shoot threes now, and they shouldn't be. Like, it's a whole different era that he did himself.
They both changed the game in their own way. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like Magic Johnson. I'm looking at his stats right now. He had 9 straight seasons of averaging at least 10.5 assists a game, and only one of those seasons was it below 11.5 assists. He had seasons where he averaged over 13. over 12 and a half. Like, this guy was the true definition of a floor general. Like, he was setting the pace for his team while also averaging 20-something a game and also grabbing 6 or 7 rebounds. On the other hand, Steph Curry hasn't had a season where he had one season where he averaged over a little bit over 8 assists a game. So it's kind of like Steph Curry changed the game in the sense of shooting, and shout out Max Kellerman if the aliens are shooting the laser beam on planet Earth and you need one person to save Earth like with one shot. I'm picking Steph Curry. I'm not picking Andre Iguodala. I'm picking Steph Curry. Like, of course, Steph Curry is going to go down in history as the greatest shooter of all time, and I don't think there's really anyone that's going to touch him, at least for the very, very, very foreseeable future. Obviously, the game changes. You're always going to have these new guys coming in, so it's hard to say that you're always going to be the best at a particular thing. But regardless, I think it's kind of like you're comparing apples and oranges. Steph Curry and Magic Johnson are just two very different players. They're both point guards. I agree with you there. I think it's kind of unfair to say that Curry isn't a point guard, because of course he is. He runs the team for the Warriors. He is the guy that takes charge, leads the way in a different way. And I just think when it comes down to the greatest point guard of all time conversation, I mean, not for nothing too. If you look at Magic Johnson's accolades, I mean, 3-time Finals MVP, 3-time MVP, 5-time NBA champ, Hall of Famer, obviously. Steph Curry, I mean, he has some great accomplishments as well. Sure. But I think it's kind of like, again, you're comparing apples and oranges. I think Magic Johnson is the true definition of a point guard, the guy that kind of set the tone for the NBA moving forward in the 80s. And like you said, he's a two-way player. He's also like a lanky-ass guard. Like, that's a guy that I want like leading my team as my point guard. And arguably, people say he's on the Mount Rushmore of NBA players of all time. So,
to kind of just jump in here too, like, not even to take anything away from Steph, but
oh, of course not. No, that's not what this conversation's about at all. Like, that's nothing but respect for both these guys. It's just like, it's hard to compare the two.
Magic's really more like, even though Magic is a point guard, Magic is in the body of a forward. Right. Like, that's
like you say, he started at center. In the NBA Finals.
Exactly. It's just, the taller you are in this game, the better chance you have on landing in the top 10 or in the top 5. That's just how I look at it. It's like, it might be a little bit of a knock to guards, a little bit, maybe, but it's just how the cookie crumbles. Like, when you're taller in this game, you impact it more sometimes. Right. That's why at the top of the list for our GOAT debates, we have MJ, who's 6'6", and LeBron, who's 6'8", and then Kareem's a 7-footer. And then just within the top 10 itself, we have Shaq or Tim Duncan or Hakeem, or whoever you want to put in there. It's just, when you're that tall and you could affect the game in different facets, it's a little easier for me to put you within the top 10, or put you at the top of your position. And Steph being 6'3", it's kind of hard to say he's better than a 6'9" Magic.
Right. And I think Steph's like the closest, like the smallest player, I would say, that's close to being in that top 10, like cracking that top 10 list. Like, obviously with his accomplishments and his, obviously his shooting and stuff like that, he makes the argument for a lot of people that I think the most notoriously, like Stephen A. Smith, like said recently, or maybe like a year or so ago, that he was like top 5 or whatever it was. Like, obviously how he changed the game and all that stuff, it gives you that recognition. Do I agree with it?
For another day.
Yeah. Do I agree with that? We're not going to get into that now, but he is great in the sense that he can be included in those conversations, right? But at the end of the day, it's just a conversation. Is he really the best of all time? That's what we're talking about here. I love Steph. He's like, for my generation, for our generation, he is one of the best. You know what I mean? Like, winning championships, always being on top, and just always being relevant and just being a star player. But it's hard for me to say that he is a better point guard than Magic Johnson. I respect his answer. I mean, of course you're going to say you're the best. I mean, what else are you going to say, right? I mean, I respect that for sure. But at the end of the day, I think Magic Johnson is still the clear choice as the greatest point guard of all time.
Yeah, it's a super subjective kind of argument here.
It is. It really. It's a generational thing too. Like, how many people now that's watched Steph Curry obviously never watched Magic Johnson. You can say the same thing about the whole Jordan LeBron argument. There are arguments that will go until the end of time. It's all subjective. There's always going to be a debate, and that's what makes basketball and sports itself so fun to talk about. There's always something to debate.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
let's move on to talk about another point guard who honestly had all the potential in the world coming out of college, moved around to a few different teams, and right now is kind of stuck in a very tough spot with injuries and stuff. Lonzo Ball on the Chicago Bulls, he says that he is going to miss the entire 2023-2024 season. Now, Lonzo Ball coming out of college, he had obviously a lot of hype around him. You can say it's because of, his, obviously he was a great player at UCLA. You can say it was because of his dad, LeVar Ball. But he is a player that really shown true potential of being, a really good playmaker and a scorer. And, we're talking about lanky guards here at 6'6", a guy that can handle the rock, be a flashy passer, be a great playmaker like he is. Seeing this news and just hearing, the way his career was going in LA, went to New Orleans, and finally found a spot in Chicago where it seemed like it was going to click. He found his team that he could truly be himself on and reach his true potential. And now he's going to miss 2 seasons in a row. I'll tell you, when I heard the news, I genuinely was heartbroken because he is a great player. He's a guy that I really wanted to see succeed in Chicago and just in general. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts on what you think, the future holds for Lonzo, what this injury means, and just your overall thoughts.
I mean, first off, it's super sad just to think about that dynamic of having him in the league. And obviously, I cover the Hornets, and seeing those games when he came as a Pelican over here and played against his little brother, man, it was probably one of the coolest things that I've seen personally since I started covering the team. So, I mean, it's really sad. Like, obviously, I'm a big Laker guy. Like, whenever Lonzo came in, I was hyped. Yeah, should we have probably had drafted Tatum or something like that? Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
but who cares? We
Right.
got a playmaking guard, and not only is he a great playmaker and a much improved 3-point shooter from when he came in the league, he is probably one of the best on-ball defenders in the league whenever he's healthy. And being that
absolutely.
missing piece to Chicago, that we could see how they actually were starting to form together with DeMar and Zach LaVine. And I believe they were the 1 seed or the 2 seed in the East at the time.
They
when
were
all
up there.
Those guys
They
were
were
healthy.
up there.
They
Yep.
looked like a well-oiled machine. We just talked about a pure playmaker, guys that set the table. Lonzo was doing that for 2 of the best perimeter scorers in LaVine and DeRozan in the league, and with Vucevic as well, setting him. So everything that the Bulls had going on paper looks really freaking good. And for him to take this step back, this backseat kind of thing with injuries, it's really depressing, man. And I think Chicago just has really terrible luck with their guards.
Do. They really do.
Think about Jay Williams, back in 2002, I believe, with the motorcycle incident. Obviously, the one that's really more of our generation with Derrick Rose and his chronic knee issues and stuff like that. And then you get Lonzo Ball. I'm sure they thought he was going to be the franchise guy. In some senses, the team was made for him with two dynamic guards, shooting guards, and a small forward right there in DeRozan and LaVine, and then a big man that can space the floor or actually bang down low with Vucevic. So it's just shit luck, man. I don't think there's any way to really describe it. I hate it for his family, man. It's terrible.
Yeah, because Lonzo Ball, though, on his trajectory, I'm looking at his stats now, the biggest knock on him was his shooting. I think people would always criticize the way he would shoot, his form, all this stuff. The last season, it didn't look good. But the last season, before he got hurt, he was shooting 42% from 3. So he really elevated his game, turned into a 3-and-D player. I mean, averaging almost 2 steals a game. He was never like a prolific scorer. He never averaged over 15 points a game, but that wasn't his game. He was a playmaker. Averaged over 7 assists a game multiple times. And you were talking about how, when the Lakers drafted him, could have been Tatum, whatever. Although that is true, at the end of the day, he did help you get Anthony Davis, which led you to a ring. So at the end of the day, you could look at it glass half full. You can look at it that way. But yeah, it really is tragic because Chicago really seemed to be a team that was made for him and a franchise where he could have called home, for the rest of his career. I don't know. Like, obviously that's a business. You never know how long you're going to stay for a team, but like, it really was a match made in heaven. I remember there was a whole, before he even went there, it was like kind of like the worst kept secret. Like, everyone knew he was going to go to Chicago for leading up to it for months and stuff like that. And just to really not, he only played 35 games for them, which is just, it's sad. And I don't know, like, if this is an injury that's going to be career ending. Obviously you missed 2 years in a row. Coming back from that, God knows, like, it shaking the rust off. It's going to be a while. But I just hope that, if he does come back, hopefully he does come back. If and when he does come back, he'll be able to return to true form, and is able to, in one way or another, fulfill his potential of being a perennial franchise guard for a franchise, maybe the Chicago Bulls, maybe someone else, who knows. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to cover that and kind of wish the best for Lonzo.
Before we do move on, I just gotta ask, like, what's going on with why are there so many setbacks? Why is he missing 2 years of play? Like, what's going on with his doctors?
Right.
Apparently, from what I've seen on Twitter and even watching on TV and stuff, he's having a hard time getting out of, like, seats.
Stephen A. Smith, I saw that report right before we got on. Stephen A. Smith says he has pain even just sitting up.
Yeah, like, that's insane. Like, you're paying millions, like, you're getting paid millions of dollars, obviously, and stuff like that with your NBA contract, but you're also paying a crap ton of money to make sure that your body's good and everything's working the right way. So,
right,
why are there, like, is it just his body, or like who? I'm not saying anybody's, like, we have to blame here, but it's just concerning.
I'm looking at the injuries. So he had a cartilage transplant in his left knee back in March. And they said he felt like he was on track to be back to playing. Even though the recovery was going to be a long process. He had 3 surgeries on his knee. And Lonzo even said, when he first got hurt, they didn't know what it was. He was seeing all different kinds of doctors. And it was hard for him because he just didn't know. He got surgery done eventually, and he had to keep getting more and more surgeries done after, these setbacks. And obviously those surgeries weren't helping. Yeah, I don't even know what to think. That's I'd say a tough injury. I don't even know, like, really what the true extent of the injury is. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
A lot of question marks. Yeah.
Concerning. It's
not like a torn ACL or something like that, where it's like, okay, like, what it is, how you can recover and all that stuff. It's kind of, I don't want to compare, but it's kind of like in a way, like a Markelle Fultz situation when he was in Philly with his shoulder. Because for a while, it was like, what the hell is going on with his shooting form?
I think with Fultz, it was more mental than it was. Like,
that's also true. Yeah. That's also very true. He did lose confidence and just kind of lost everything when it came to shooting. That's very true. But regardless, obviously we hope the best for Lonzo Ball. Hopefully this upcoming year that he's out, he uses that time to fully recover, get back to the player that he once was, and hopefully we can see him back on a basketball court much sooner than later. And moving on to our last topic, Jerry, before we get into our games, ESPN insiders voted Joel Embiid as the next star in the league to request a trade. So we have a list here of 8 guys and the percentage of total votes of who they believe is going to be the first one to request a trade. Embiid, like I said, number 1 with 40%. Number 2, we have Zion Williamson with 20%. Karl-Anthony Towns at 3 with 12%. And then we have Trae Young and Kyrie Irving each tied at 4th. Ja Morant, Donovan Mitchell, and Luka Doncic rounding it out at 5. We talked about this last week about Joel Embiid and kind of like, the process, whatever the process is now, is running short in Philly. Obviously, to be seen with what happens with Harden and stuff. Do you agree with this list? Do you think Joel Embiid, if the next star in the league to request a trade, do you think that will be Joel Embiid? Will it be anyone else on this list? Or do you think there's someone that isn't included on this list that should be on this list?
Yeah, I think the easy answer is to say Joel because of the current situation. It is the easy answer. Like, if it feels like it's too obvious, then I don't even really want to say it. But I understand, like, we had our whole spiel in the last episode about it as well. That the Miami fit or the New York Knicks fit. They have the assets. Yada yada yada. I think that's too even. I think we need to supply another one, even if we're going to say that it's Joel.
Mm-hmm.
So I think out of everybody else on this list, or off the top of my head, I do think one of the Celtics guys, despite Jaylen Brown signing this ridiculous deal and Tatum will sign one to follow, there's no telling what could happen in 2 to 3 years if those guys just, it's not clicking. It's like, I hate to keep bringing these NFL analogies in on every episode, but I'm really hyped for the football season. But
yeah, me too.
What's with going on with in Buffalo with Stephon Diggs with the situation of him, sitting some days out of training camp that Stephen A. said that he wants out. He denies the claims in the
Stephen A. trusts his sources, man. The only sources he cares about are his own.
Yeah, hey. And you know what? He's been right in the past.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I'm not questioning him.
Exactly. I'm kind of looking at this situation the same way with what it could develop in Boston with Tatum and Brown eventually, maybe in the next 2 years, 3 years. I don't think it's immediate. I think the one that I probably like the most is the one that's actually last on this list with Luka. Just because.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I like that one.
Loose cannon kind of personality in Kyrie. I think Kyrie's great. I think he is a great person, but
who is also on this list.
Exactly. I think they're both pretty unpredictable because we still don't know if it's going to work. They did have a pretty good offseason. Drafted Derek Lively, who I think is a good centerpiece for him at the center position. So it looks pretty nice on paper, like the acquisitions that they made. It's like, okay, maybe they could be. I mean, they still have two of the best offensive talents in the league.
They do.
Maybe they'll be okay. They might be able to be better than a team like the Timberwolves or like those teams towards the bottom of the West. I could confidently say that, but if they're not, Luka is probably going to be the guy that, hey, I need to get out of here. I know some people have a problem with that just because he learned from Dirk for a season or two, right? He got to get the mentorship program from him and stuff like that. Dirk was a lifer. He meant everything for Dallas. Dirk was winning 50-plus games probably his first like 5 to 8 seasons in Dallas.
Yeah,
they were good.
And he was playing with like Steve Nash's and guys like that as well. Yeah,
exactly.
Luka didn't really have that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's kind of there's not a lot of talent on that roster outside of Kyrie Irving to me, and maybe a couple young guys that we can point out. So I think I'm gonna say Luka just because Embiid is way too easy. Like you shouldn't even say that,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's just kind of like, of course, if things crumble in Philly, why wouldn't Joel Embiid request a trade? I mean, that's why he has 40% of these votes here. I do like Luka. I do agree that, I mean, they're really trying a lot of different things here to put talent around Luka. I don't want to say they gave up a lot to get Kyrie, but they kind of like gutted their team, like their role players and their bench a little bit to get Kyrie. So they gave up a handful of players to get him. And Kyrie, again, we know what he's capable of doing. I love, like, talent-wise, I love Kyrie, and me and you are on the same page there. But we know what he's done to locker rooms in the past and what he's done to teams. The 2017-2018 Boston Celtics, on paper, is one of the best teams that of recent memory, and we know how that ended, right?
Look, all I'm going to say is I can't even really call Kyrie like a locker room cancer. Per se, especially because a lot of his former teammates, still have good relationships with him. They like him and stuff.
You're right. It's just you see the trend. You've seen the trend. You've seen his history. That's all.
I think it's more so with management that he's had in the past, though. I think it's things that just didn't work out. Like I think the Boston situation is a little different. I don't think that was management. I more so think that was just like his role.
I think he also got a little too ahead of himself. If he never came out and said the season before that he wanted to stay there long term, there would be no problems. He did. So he shouldn't have done that. He buried his own grave there. But I kind of want to go back to what you mentioned with the Celtics guys. I gave a look. It makes me nervous. It makes me nervous because I agree with you. I don't want to sit here and tell you that I can look into a crystal ball, but all of last season, from the beginning of the season to the point when they got eliminated in the Eastern Conference Finals and they were down 3-0, came back and got borderline blown out in Game 7, I said, if they don't win this year, because on paper last year was, besides that 2007-2018 team, this was the best team that they had for both the Jays. It was just the perfect mix of, you had a great group of guards, you had your big men, you had a great bench, and it's like, if this didn't work out, something's got to give. And I said, something's going to happen with the core. They're going to have to change it up. Marcus Smart got shipped out. Now you got Kristaps there. Now you go into this season. Jalen, yes, just signed his extension. He's there for another 5 years on top of his last year here. Jason Tatum was due for a contract extension next year. God, please, if there is a God out there, I hope he signs that extension, because if he doesn't, we're in some trouble. But assuming he does, there's no way he would be taking such a massive pay cut if he goes anywhere else. There's no way he passes up on all that extra money. But let's just say he does here. If they don't win, they're changing up these rosters, they're building a team around these guys. If they can't get it done, eventually something's going to have to give. And I do agree with you that, and it's my biggest fear that one of those guys is going to request a trade. I don't want to think that way, but I'm realistic. I understand. I know it's a business. I know how the NBA operates. Not great things don't last forever. And teams get shaken up a lot. So I do agree with you that in a few years' time, that is probably a conversation that will be had. Hopefully not, because if they win, that changes things. But it's in the sense of if they don't win, things don't continue to go the way they want to, then we're going to have that tough conversation. But yeah, I think on this list, just kind of going back to it, Luka Doncic, I agree. And one other guy I want to talk about too is Karl-Anthony Towns. And the reason why I'm mentioning him, because we're seeing Anthony Edwards taking over, not only on the team, but in the NBA. Anthony Edwards is borderline going to become, I think, the face of the NBA in just a few years. He's on a trajectory to be one of the top tier players in this league. He is talented as hell. There's not much he can't do at this point. He's so young and he's getting so much better. Karl-Anthony Towns could be kind of fed up that, this isn't my team anymore. Anthony Edwards kind of took the keys from him very quickly.
Ego trip kind of thing.
Ego trip kind of thing, exactly. So in a way, I can see Karl-Anthony Towns looking at that and being like, I'm not important anymore. I'm not the star anymore. I want out. And obviously, Karl-Anthony Towns is a little bit older, so he might look to, go to a more established team, whatever that may be. That's a conversation for another day. But yeah. I do think that that's another guy that realistically could request a trade, maybe within the next year, to be honest with you.
Looking at all these names, we could paint out a scenario for each one, right?
We could.
I think the only one that I'm like, why are they even on this list is probably Ja Morant, because I don't really see him wanting out anytime.
I don't think he should be doing something like that now either. Exactly. I think he should hold off on that. Yeah, for sure.
I think he knows what he means to Memphis, and he looks like he enjoys his time there. I think he's only on it because of all the obviously serving the 25-game suspension, and maybe some teams and whoever put together this list is probably thinking a fresh start will do this kid some good. That's all. That's the only logic that I can think. But I don't really see. That's the only scenario I don't see happening on this thing. Everybody else, there's a fair shot. Personally, I think I like Luka probably the most, but everybody else has a great argument for why they would want to get shipped out or something. So
this league, man, the NBA is funny. You never know. A player can come out of left field and request a trade tomorrow that you don't expect. Sometimes
when we talk about the player perspective too, I think it's important to note what management thinks, or if new management or ownership in the Phoenix Suns case last year, right? Matt Ishbia came in and shipped out Bridges and Cam Johnson and got KD. He said, you know what? I don't want Chris Paul, and got rid of Chris Paul for Bradley Beal. There's a lot of
changes quick.
Exactly.
Changes quick.
You look at the players in the player empowerment era, it's definitely a thing for sure. I mean, look what James Harden's doing, but management changes, and sometimes it's a situation where you don't want to go anywhere, but you have no power or say in the matter. Like what happened to DeMarcus Cousins at the All-Star game. He found out.
During an interview, he goes, so what do you think about New Orleans? Man, I love New Orleans. I love it here.
It's crazy.
So
The All-Star game was
iconic.
in New Orleans, and he ended
Yep.
up getting traded. Like
That's some like simulation shit right there, bro. That's like, yeah, you never know in the NBA, and that's what makes it so fun. One of the most enjoyable leagues to follow. But all right, let's move on from our topics, Jerry, and let's get into some games. Now, I have two games for you. Looking at this sheet here, it looks like you have two games for me, or you have three games for me. Excuse me.
three.
So I want you to start off. We'll start. You give yours, and then I'll go. We'll go back and forth.
Gotcha. This one's actually, you've been killing me in stats. The past.
I see one of these games on here, and I'm kind of nervous.
I gotta punch back, man. In a boxing match, I'm gonna lose if I just let you pelt on me and beat my ass.
The most games played against last week was brutal. That's unforgivable. That was unforgivable.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of stuff. We emphasize in episode 1 personality-based personality. I've been doing a lot of personality games and giving our opinions and our takes. We got to get political. We got to get federal. We got to get that, man. So,
let's do it.
First game I'm gonna play with you here. I want you to tell me who scored the most points against this player. I got 3 guys for you.
Okay.
Guy number 1. Who scored the most points against LeBron James? We'll start out simple here.
Okay, so just to clarify, so it's like a player that scored the most against like LeBron James on like these teams that he's been on. So like
throughout the course of LeBron's career.
His career, okay.
Yeah.
Most points against LeBron. All right, so like early on, Paul Pierce, when he was in his Cleveland, Miami era, that's probably a big one. But then you get to, the Paul Pierce retired, wasn't good in like the early 2010s, really. Kobe Bryant,
a couple serviceable roles in Washington.
Serviceable. Serviceable is very generous, Jerry. Listen.
Hey,
I love Paul Pierce. He's a Celtic legend. Hey, he called game.
Good numbers in Washington. I'm just saying.
He did.
Brooklyn, he fell off though.
Brooklyn, yeah, he was terrible. Clippers, he never even played. All right. I'm trying to think. Kobe, no, because no, because that's the Eastern Western Conference thing. They didn't play enough. They didn't play in the playoffs. They didn't have any final. This is like playoffs and all that stuff included too, correct? Or is it just regular season?
Honestly, when I looked up the stats, I still have something pulled up here. Let's see. It just says most career points. So
so I'll assume playoffs and finals. Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Well, if that's being said, they haven't played each other much the last few years, but they've had a lot of battles in the finals. Kevin Durant's a big one. Steph Curry's also a big one. Oh, okay. I feel like I'm kind of settling in on those guys. I'm gonna go with Steph Curry.
Steph Curry's incorrect.
Oh, no.
But I do believe he's in the top 10. I took down the list for it, but I do believe he's in the top 10.
Just the top 10? Oh, fuck. Oh, God. Okay.
You got to also think that Steph missed a lot of games early on in his career. So
That's true.
Where they would play twice a year, it just didn't happen.
I think I'm getting caught up in the whole the finals matchups and stuff like that. But yeah, no, that's true. All right, let me get one more guess here.
Yeah, for sure. 2 guesses apiece for these.
All right, let me think more logical. Let me think Eastern Conference, because in that case, if the player is healthy, it's 4 times a year, playoff matchups, all that stuff. You know who a good guess? I don't know if this is him, but I think this is a really good guess. I'm gonna go with DeMar DeRozan.
Ding, ding, ding! That was awesome.
Let's go. Okay.
DeMar DeRozan has 885 points. Dwayne Wade is actually number 2 at 788, and Paul Pierce is number 3 on this list. So yeah, I was hoping that you would get there, because it's like you got to think playoff matchups,
right?
The whole LeBronzo thing. Like
I was thinking too, like finals and stuff. I had to think of like the road to the finals. You know what I mean? And all those years that they played Toronto. All right, let's go. That's huge.
It's starting off high. I think I think, honestly, all of these are pretty easy, but the last one. I got two more for you. Two more guys for you.
All right, let's see.
So, who scored the most points against Steph Curry throughout the course of his career? Two guesses again here.
Okay, Steph Curry. So, again, he missed a good amount of playing time early on in his career. When he started to get healthy again, they had a lot of matchups against, like, the Clippers. Obviously, you know, my mind keeps going to LeBron again because, like, even though, like, it was an Eastern Western Conference thing, LeBron James scored a lot. He did a lot in those finals matchups, like averaged almost 40 a game in the 2015 finals. But that's only like a 4-year stretch. Kevin Durant, I feel like, might not be a bad guess either. Even though they were teammates for a few years, they definitely had, you know, some matchups. Russell Westbrook, maybe. I hate to do this. My first guess, I'm gonna say LeBron James. I'm caught up on it.
Yeah, you're getting a little stuck. It's the same thing. LeBron is in the top 7. The last time I remember looking at it. He's in the top 7 for it.
I couldn't shake it. I had to guess it. Okay.
I mean, you know, you burned one, you shot one out into the air, you still got one more. Oh, good.
Hey, everyone has 2 free throws. It's all about making at least one of them. Let me think. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. I feel like there's one other big name I feel like I might be missing. I'm trying to think. Clippers matchup. Chris Paul was never a scorer. Blake Griffin, but they didn't have that many crazy matchups. Any one of the Nuggets? No. I'm trying to think of like Western Conference teams at this point. I'm trying to think of those teams and matching up players, but
I got you.
I think
it's a good game plan.
Yeah. I don't think it's working, but I think I'm gonna be upset by this one because I think I'm going to say Russell Westbrook.
You're 2 for 2, baby.
Oh shit! Let's go! Wow! I'm caught up with Westbrook, Durant, and LeBron. Like, those are the 3 guys. I'm like, I feel like there's someone else in there, but wow, okay. Like what was the list?
These are pretty easy, man. So Westbrook is number 1, obviously, with 818. KD is number 2, and with 794.
I would have been pissed if I took KD.
Then number 3 is actually CP3 with 7.
Oh wow!
Yeah, man, the Clippers and Warriors had a little bit of.
They did. Yeah, they did. Wow.
You're killing this shit right now.
Okay. All right. Now you said this is the hardest one, so we'll see how I do here.
It probably is the hardest one just because it's the weirdest one. But if you really think about it hard enough, I believe in you. Plus, you just got to think logically about each of these. But okay. The last guy I have for you here is Nikola Jokic. It's a weird name. Obviously, he's the best player in the world today, but like, how often were you really paying attention to Nuggets matchups in 2016 or 2017?
I was gonna say, like, he really hasn't been in the league a crazy amount, like compared to the guys that you mentioned.
I named two of the faces of the league for the 20.
Right. How can I ask what year Jokic got drafted? Was it 2014?
I feel like he's been in the league for 8 years.
8 years. That's the number I was thinking of. 8 years. Yeah. Nikola Jokic, huh? That is a weird one.
Nikola Jokic was drafted in 2015. So
2015. Okay. The Denver Nuggets. I mean, like, they had matchups with like the Clippers, the Lakers.
See, this right here is super tough because the Nuggets didn't get a lot of TV games.
They didn't really become like a prominent franchise again until like the late 2010s, early 2020s. I feel like that's when they really started to like pop off again. Damn, that's a tough one. Who the fuck did they play a lot? I'm trying to think of the rivalries, beef and stuff.
Technically, it is a rivalry for the Nuggets. Technically, the team on which this person plays for, it is technically a rivalry. I can't really say too much else about it, though.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I had this name pop into my mind. Again, this is tough. I feel like the answer to this isn't like an Devin Booker.
Nah, Devin Booker. I actually have this list pulled up.
And he's
Devin
not
Booker,
on it.
Yeah, he's not even in the top 15.
Fuck. Okay.
Oh, no, I lied. He's literally number 10. Okay.
When you were, okay. I don't know. He just popped in my head, and he's been one of the best scorers in the league since he's entered it.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I mean, it's a solid guess. It's a Western Conference star.
Okay.
Sorry, he's 12. He's 12 on this list, not 10. 12.
That's
if that helps at all.
Doesn't make me feel. Fuck. All right, who's 11 ahead of Devin Booker? Fuck. I'm trying to think, like Paul George, maybe. I'm trying to think, maybe Kevin Durant again, but no, Kevin Durant was he went to Brooklyn for a few years. He definitely not Kevin Durant. Steph, no, I feel like it wasn't a rivalry. I know they faced the Clippers in the playoffs before, but
I can give you a hint, but I still don't know if it'll help you. But
it's okay. I want it to be rewarding. If I somehow pull this out of my ass, I want it to be rewarding. I'm honestly kind of drawing blank. This is a tough one. This is a really weird one.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to pull the Band-Aid off. I'm gonna rip it off right now. I'm gonna say Paul George. I don't think that's right though.
No, Paul George is indeed incorrect.
Okay, that's fair.
Paul George is actually one behind Booker.
Is he really? Oh, fuck. Yeah. Two terrible guesses. All right, who is it?
So the top three. Steph is third with 599. Okay. Westbrook's actually on here again with 620. And then the hint I was going to give you was that they are in the same division, but basketball divisions are so weird, so it doesn't really matter anyway. But Russ and Damian Lillard.
Oh, damn. He didn't even come to my mind, no. I mean, of course, yeah, that makes sense. Damian Lillard's such a prolific scorer.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, man, you went 2 for 3, and you got the two faces of the 2010s and shit. So I'm proud of you personally.
Okay. I'll tell you what
I didn't think you'd get.
I appreciate it. When I saw this written down before we started this episode, I was like, wow, this guy's gonna give me the shaft on this one.
No. No. I'm not. Look, man, I'm not gonna ever punch you so hard where you can't get up like how you did me, man. It's all in good fun, though. It's all in good fun.
Yeah, all in good fun. All right, cool. All right, I have these games I have for you, Jerry. I'm going easy on you this week. You're really not gonna have to think big here. These are kind of more like opinionated games. All right, so we're gonna get to know you a little bit more here with these games. All right,
they're gonna love me.
We'll see. We'll see what you have to say about these players I'll mention, because what I'm gonna ask you, Jerry, will these NBA players win a ring? So I'm gonna give you 5 NBA players, and I want you to tell me whether or not you believe. I'm going to give you 5 ringless NBA players. I want you to tell me whether you think that they will end their career with a ring or 2 or none.
I changed my mind. They're going to hate me, but let's go.
Yeah, well, we might have some fan bases coming at you after this one. Okay. The first player I have for you is a guy that has made it to the finals a handful of times the last few years, and that is Jimmy Butler.
there's a lot going on with that organization right
here's
now.
the thing. Here's the thing too. A lot of these like players, like these situations, it's based off of like what happens in the future, like what the direction of the team and stuff. Like there's a lot that goes into this. It's not a straight answer here. There's a lot to consider.
Exactly. Obviously, we know the whole limbo with Dame going on right now. That's one hell of a segue. I see what you did there. I gave the Damian Lillard answer, and now we're talking about the Miami Heat.
Yep.
Wow. But
yeah, funny how that works.
Yeah, super super coincidental. But damn, that's tough. This still makes me kind of think just about this situation. Ah, damn.
Jimmy Butler also. I'm gonna do this too. He is 30. Where is his age? Where the hell is it? Oh, he's 33 years old, turning 34 in a few weeks. Happy early birthday, Jimmy Butler.
Man, happy early birthday, Jimmy. But I got to give you Cole on your birthday, man. I don't think you're getting a ring, dog. Like, obviously that could change. Dame comes to Miami or Joel Embiid comes to Miami. Things are susceptible to change, but I still don't look at Miami, despite them beating Boston. I don't look at them like they're better than Boston. I don't look at them like they're better than Milwaukee. So it's kind of hard for me to say that. I know they beat both of those teams on the way to the finals, but I'm not going to say it was a fluke. But Giannis was hurt those first couple of games, which made things a lopsided affair. And Tatum and Brown more so Tatum, didn't have a heart in that last series. So I think things are susceptible to change. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no for Jimmy.
Okay. All right. The next player I have for you is Chris Paul, who is a fresh 38 years old on a brand new team over in Golden State on the Warriors.
No. With all due respect, CP, one of my favorite point guards growing up, man, had a poster of him on my wall and everything. Love Chris Paul. But I just don't think the Warriors are where he's going to get it done at. I get he makes every team better. I love his impact on teams. Playing one of the point god, one of the best playmakers ever, man. I don't see the Warriors being a top 3, top 4 team in the West. I think I have a certain amount of teams ahead of them. So, sorry, CP.
I started laughing because I just thought of this tweet. So when Chris Paul was in the finals 2 years ago with the Suns, he said, like, I'm addicted to like the NBA finals, like wants to come back and stuff. And someone said it was like 2 years, like, wow, he's 2 years sober.
Yep. Hey, I can't even say that he gets back, and he's definitely been. Yeah. He needs to get back on that juice again if he wants to get back where he's at. He's with the right organization. That organization is definitely addicted to being in the finals, but
right.
I can't say the same for CP, man. Now you gave me 2 dogs for the first one, and I hate to say no to both, but
all right. Well, let's see if you can hate to say no to this guy. We talked about him earlier, James Harden. Obviously, there's a lot to consider with this one, a whole lot to consider. But do you think James Harden will end his career with a ring?
Nah, we have 3 no's in a row, Dante, because I don't know if I can say that yes to him either. Even if he does end up in LA with the Clippers, you have 2 injury-prone superstars, love their games, but they can't stay healthy. You have the best coach, arguably the best coach in the league. I love Ty Lue. It makes sense, and Russell Westbrook. So essentially, you bring back 2/3 of the Thunder buddies from 2012, but their age and their roles aren't exactly the same. It's a big ass asterisk beside the Clippers organization. Yeah, they could win the 2024 title, but I'm good. Right. I'm good. I'm gonna say no to that too. If he stays in Philly, I have the same problem with them not being better than the Bucks or the Celtics, unless Embiid just turns into Shaq in the playoffs instead of turning into Ronnie Turioff. With all due
Ronnie Turioff, shout out. Oh my God. I never thought I'd hear that name on this podcast. All right. This next player, I have 2 more for you. This next guy, I feel like I kind of know your answer now because you kind of briefly mentioned him in the organization. Paul George. I didn't, when I put this list together, you're actually like perfectly like just like going down the list, like just like talking about one guy, it's like that's alluding to another guy, the next guy that I'm going to. It's perfect.
You would think that we looked at this prior to.
You would have thought, genuinely, yeah.
But you already know the answer to that, dude. Yeah. It's the same thing. You got to get traded somewhere else for me to think that. But currently, He has another year on his deal for $40 million. He's not going anywhere anytime soon right now. So, sorry, PG. Also a no.
All right. We got one more guy for you. And this guy is a lot different than any of the other guys I mentioned to you before, okay?
All right.
Now, answer this wisely, all right? Think with this one. Jason Tatum.
That's the one guy I can give a yes on this list. And no, I'm not just doing it for you.
No. I appreciate it.
It's more so obviously the dude is younger than me. I'm 26. Jason Tatum is 25 years old. He's your age.
Dude, he's 2 months older than me. It pisses me off. Oh, my God. It's crazy. Oh.
So, yeah, look, he's making millions, and we're over here on a podcast.
Talking about it. I know. It's crazy.
But no, it's the perfect situation, right? Like, he has another great young talent beside him in Jaylen Brown. Really, I could arguably say, too, with Kristaps Porzingis, who still isn't 30 yet, I don't think. So
28, 29. Yeah.
Entering the prime of his career. I'm still not super huge on Joe Mazzulla. I don't know.
Me and you both, buddy.
I do like the fact that they got Sam Cassell, though. So that does make me feel really good about the coaching staff, just because he's there. And the rest of the pieces are also still intact. Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams. Al Horford's still there. So
Robert Williams is going to step on the court, sprain his ankle, and miss 80 games of the season. But
hey, he can miss 80 games in the regular season. He plays in the postseason. He's effective, damn it.
It's all that matters. It's all that matters. You're right.
I'm cool with Tatum saying yes to Tatum. Honestly, I'd like to change my answer on Jimmy Butler, but there's just so much shit going on in Miami. I don't know right now. So we got 4 no's and 1 yes, though. So
hey, 1 for 5. Hey, we got at least someone got a yes. All right. One of these guys' future is looking good. But all right. That's what I have for you. What's the next game you have for me?
All right, we got these are more so, opinionated as well.
Yep.
Really, really based off of preference for this one that we're about to play here. So we're going to play a game of Would You Rather. And since the NFL season is coming up, it is kind of NFL themed / NBA. We're going to merge the two here.
Okay.
I got some situations for you I want you to answer. So, would you rather get posterized or get mossed?
Oh, okay. I was interested in what this game was going to entail when I saw this. Okay. Get posterized or I get mossed? So here's the thing. This might be an unpopular opinion. I don't think getting posterized it might not be the worst thing in the world because at least you're trying to go for the ball and try to block the shot. Like in some senses, like the I try to think of like the Jason Terry poster when LeBron just absolutely brutalized him. At least Jason Terry, like he stood there, he tried. Man, like he gave his effort. Was it good? No, but he tried.
That was probably the worst example you could get.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm trying to think of like what's a good one? Or maybe like Tatum dunking on LeBron. Maybe that's a better one. That's a better one. Okay. LeBron made a play for the ball. He unfortunately got dunked on, but like he attempted to go for it. The Jason Terry one is the first thing that came to my mind. That was one of the worst. I think I brought it up because I'm trying to justify it because of how much it scarred me. Jason Terry. I don't know if you know this. He literally he was on the Celtics for a year because he was involved in that Nets trade.
Yeah.
He got the Celtics logo tattooed on his calf, and then got traded the next year.
Yep.
That's unjustified. That's unbelievable. But would I rather be mossed or postered? I feel like I'd rather be postered only because I feel like getting mossed doesn't happen that often in the NFL. So when it does happen, it's like this big ordeal where like getting postered, that's going to be a highlight on ESPN or whatever. But unless it's like a sickening poster, like Jason Terry falling flat on his back, borderline, like you have memes of them digging his grave and putting the gravestone on underneath it. There's more of a chance that that's not. there's more of a chance that highlight isn't going to live on in history compared to getting mossed. You know what I mean? So I think in this case, I'm going to go with getting postered.
Yeah, I understand, your thought process behind it. And honestly, I would say that I agree with you. I think I'd rather get posted. Because I could blame somebody else, right? Like, wow, you didn't pick up? That's your man.
Sure, yeah. Right.
That
Like
right there.
1-on-1, if it's like a corner wide receiver 1-on-1 and you get Moss, like that's dirty, man. That's tough. That's a tough look.
Yeah, and it really is sometimes just like you and the receiver at that point. So I'm really
Right.
with you there. Like, but
Okay.
that kind of
It
helps
took
you
me a
out.
while to get there. But yeah.
To help you out with the disrespectful postings, though, is really thank Anthony Edwards, Yuta Watanabe, recently. Think
Oh,
about anything Shaq related. Shaq used to just murder people.
right.
MJ over
Vince
Dikembe
Carter. Vince
Mutombo. Yeah,
Carter dunking over guys in
yeah,
the
like
Olympics.
so I get it. I'd rather get poster too. I'd like getting lost is pretty damn embarrassing. But
All right.
moving on to the next scenario I have for you. Would you rather get your ankles broken or get cooked on a route?
So when we say ankles broken, are we talking like Paul Pierce, Joe Johnson, Paul Pierce, like reaching for the ground looking for pennies, or like
I'm talking about make you touch earth.
oh,
I'm talking
okay,
about
like a Wesley Johnson getting sent to the free throw line by James Harden type of shit.
Yeah.
Oh.
CP3 playing Twister after Steph Curry did what he had to do to him. So like,
honestly, I'm not even gonna think much about this. I think I'd rather get beat on a route because genuinely, like, when you get your ankles broken like that, bro, like that's demoralizing. Like, could it be demoralizing to get beaten on a route? Sure, but I also think it's a little bit more like not more common now. Maybe that's not the right way to look at it, but like it's not as embarrassing. Like, could it be bad? Oh yeah, it could be very bad. But like if you're touching the earth, bro, if you're getting sent feet like to the free throw line from the 3-point line, like Wesley Johnson was, or any of that, bro, like that's a tough look. And like Chris Paul, as great as he is, people will always remember him for being in that highlight play and Steph Curry's highlight film of playing Twister, like you said. And I would not want to be involved in a play like that. So I think I'd rather get beat on a route.
yeah, no, I mean I get it. I think I'd actually go the opposite way this time. I think I'd rather get crossed up a little bit and get mixed up. Like, I guess it depends on what moment it happens in the game.
That's like if it's like a game-winning drive in football or something like that. Yeah, I don't want to be on the receiving end of that. But like it's the situational short.
Yeah, if you guard a Devontae Adams in overtime, and obviously winner wins there, it's like, damn, like I just got
for sure. You might get cut. You might get cut after that. You know what I mean? I get that.
Yeah, I get you. Especially like I'm gonna be looking like, where's the safety help? But in this case on the court, if I get crossed up on the court, even if I do get crossed up, I touch earth, I do whatever. I'm just hoping that the next, like if he's driving, if it's Kyrie and he gets by me, like, man, like, where's my center? Or like, where's the help?
Right.
Right. I might have some time to recover because it could be like, oh, he didn't score. You get cooked on a route. It's probably a lot easier to catch a wide open pass than it is to blow a point blank layup.
Finish, hit a three. Yeah, no, I get that. I get it. You have to look at situations there. But that's a funny one. That's a funny one.
That's all I have. The other one.
All right.
Yeah. I got one more game, but you have one more here for us too. So let's go.
All right. Let's see what we have. Okay, so this last game I have for you, where do I... Hold on. I have it somewhere. Where did I put it? Hold on. Here we go. Okay. So again, this isn't like this isn't much you have to think, like no statistical things, no points scored, wins, nothing like that. I'm asking you, who would you rather build your team around? So I'm going to give you 3 different player versus player scenarios. They're kind of like it's not like I'm giving you a point guard versus center here. Like it's like kind of like guys that are the same age, same position, same like style of play type of thing. Okay?
All right. Okay, yeah.
So the first set of players I have for you, these are like the fresh new faces of the NBA, the young guys that are really, became superstars in the league over the last few years. Would you rather build your team around Luka Doncic or Jason Tatum?
This
different but similar. You know what I mean? Different but similar here.
It's tough. It's tough, right? I think obviously Tatum benefited from being drafted to the Boston Celtics in a situation where he has Jaylen Brown. At one point, he had Brad Stevens as a head coach. There was a lot of things that fell in place for Tatum for everything to be right, which is why he's seen more success than Luka, at least, T-wise, getting to the finals, obviously, and several Eastern Conference finals where I don't think Tatum has missed the playoffs where Luka has. twice, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, but I think I'm gonna go Luka, man. I think for what he accounts for in offense, obviously he's definitely not the defender that Tatum is. And
Yeah.
so in terms of intangibles on that end of the floor, it's non-existent. But I think I got to go Luka just because he could be my offense. He could be the unit.
Mhm.
And I'm not ready to write off that Kyrie and other stars can't play with him yet, because him and Kyrie had a very limited size of work to go off of just to say that they can't play together or Luka can't play with other perimeter stars. So I think I'm just going off the offensive talent, and what this league needs today is somebody that can lead a team similar to how he can and put it on his back in some senses. So I'm gonna go Luka. I just think they need some better pieces around him. I'm gonna go Luka.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the fair answer to give. I mean, Jace Tatum, obviously, you can't go wrong with either of these guys, but I think Luka Doncic's game is kind of more like built to kind of build around.
Yeah.
He can do virtually anything except maybe play defense. I think that's really the only like big knock on his game at this point, which he can always improve on. But yeah, I feel like Luka here is like the smart answer of a player that you ideally would want to build around, because there's really not much he can't do.
But I must
But all
say,
right.
though, I go back
Mhm.
and forth with this all the time. I think last year I said Tatum because I love a two-way.
This is a very debatable one. This is again, you can't go wrong with either. You kind of have to look at like team success, like you said for Tatum. Like, I mean, since he's entered the league, he's made how many Eastern Conference Finals and stuff like that. He's never missed the playoffs or anything like that. While on the other hand, Luka, missed a few times, but look at the teams that he's been on. Look at the players that have, they put around him and such. So it's kind of a situational thing as well.
Hey,
So
all I'm gonna say is LeBron took Eric Snow, Big Z, and Delonte West to the NBA Finals,
he
baby.
did. He
Anything's
did. Hey,
possible.
but LeBron James,
Different breed.
LeBron James is LeBron James. He's arguably the GOAT. So that's what separates them there. But all right. The next duo, or the next two guys that I have for you, are two MVP candidates. For the last 3 years, they've been going head to head. Two guys that you could argue could have each won, an MVP the last 3 years. I have Nikola Jokic versus Joel Embiid. Now, I know this answer might be a little obvious, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
I don't think I want to be obvious today. I think I want to be a little more bold.
Okay.
I think obviously everybody's Nikola Jokic. He's the best player in the world today. He damn sure is, man. He definitely is. But I went with the offensive unit for Luka. I think I'm gonna go with the two-way guy here in Joel Embiid. This is
okay, I like it.
It's another you can't really go wrong. I think Joel Embiid has to obviously show up in the postseason and get past the second round, especially. But I mean, it's a two-way guy. He's a two-way superstar that could possibly be on his way out of Philly, right? There's a 40% chance that happens. And I think if he does end up in a place like New York or Miami, per se, he could find different success or even more success than what he found in Philadelphia with a lot of toxic situations. So we could, even though Embiid has played with better teammates than Jokic, Jokic has had the better situation just because of coaching, because of management. Everything's been consistent there, where they trusted Jokic, where they trusted the players around him. Drafting Jamal Murray, drafting MPJ, getting Aaron Gordon, and then at some point you get KCP and Bruce Brown.
Yep.
The organization in Denver was better ran these past 8 years than what it was in Philadelphia. So I think Joel could still be a better talent. I know the assist numbers kind of make it look like a landslide, like Jokic is way better, but he's not really that much better right now. I would say that Jokic is the better player right now, yes. But I don't think he's
for sure
like a tier above Embiid. I think they're on the same plane still.
I mean, at the end of the day, Embiid did win the MVP this last year. Obviously, Jokic won the NBA title and all that stuff. But again, look at the situations, look at the organizations, look at management, all that stuff. There's a lot to factor into. Jokic, I feel like a lot of people, when you hear this, like Jokic or Embiid, they're going to be quick to jump on Jokic. Yeah. He's a triple-double machine, all that stuff. But you have to factor in the two-way aspect that you mentioned. Joel Embiid can play both sides of the ball. And not for nothing, if Embiid had to, I'm sure Embiid could put up 30, 10, maybe 7 and 8. You know what I mean? If he played the same role that Jokic has, Joel Embiid, he ain't a scrub when it comes to passing the ball or getting his teammates involved. I'm sure he can play that aspect of his game.
Yeah.
Obviously, with James Harden on his team, he's averaging 11 assists a game, so that's going to be very hard. But like if you kind of put him in Jokic's situation, vice versa, whatever, who says Embiid can't put up those numbers?
Yeah, systems and schemes are different. Maybe things could look different for Embiid this year with Nick Nurse being the coach, though.
That's also very true. That's also something to consider. Yeah, 100%. All right. So I actually have two more. I think I mentioned I had three, but I actually have four of them for you. So I have two more to give you here, okay?
Let's do it.
The next two that I'm going to have for you are two up-and-coming guys who are set to be future faces of the league. I think they're right around the same age. I think one of them is maybe a year or two older than the other.
Okay.
I'm going to give you Shai Gilgeous-Alexander,
My boy.
or Anthony Edwards.
Oh,
This is a tough one. This is a tough one. We just talked about earlier how Anthony Edwards, I have all the love in the world. I can give this guy praise until the end of time. I think this guy is going to be a fucking monster. I think he's going to be a superstar in no time. I think he's already like borderline there. But SGA, 30 points a game last year. He willed the Thunder into the play, and they almost made the playoffs. So it's tough. There's a lot to consider here.
Whew. Yeah, there's definitely. I love Ant, man. Like there was a piece of my mind in the 2020 draft that I was just like, man, hopefully Minnesota just fucks this up so that we could happen to get Ant. Like I don't know, there's no way he would have dropped because Golden State was still there.
Right.
I'm sure Golden State would have took him. But damn, that's tough. I think SGA and the Thunder they have all the potential in the world to be a playoff team next season, a team that probably win a series if everybody develops the right way. I think OKC is the more.
I love OKC. I love their team going into next year.
It looks obviously Minnesota. You have Ant, you got Cat, you got Rudy, you got Jalen McDaniels. Like they have a pretty interesting squad as well. I guess right now you would say they're better. It's kind of tough to choose between the two, honestly.
It is. I think this is definitely the toughest one. I'm giving you 1,000%.
I'm just gonna go.
Both the Williamses. Oh my god.
I love them both. I think they both got dog in them, and SGA is a little more underrated though. So I think I'm gonna go SGA. It's not easy. I think tomorrow, if you ask me, I'll probably say Ant. I think he does have that like ballistic superstar potential like Ant. It is crazy, but SGA I think is going to be one of those guys that's underrated probably for most of his career, unless OKC gets to a Western Conference final or happens to get to the finals somehow.
He's a guy that could kind of like. I mean, the Thunder are always going to be a team to watch out for, a team like on the cusp or right there. But like if they're always a team that doesn't make it that far, he's going to kind of be stuck in that middle of the pack team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. And I think I'm really saying SGA because I think he's a better defender than Ant. Maybe not by a landslide, but he did average a steal and a block a game. And he is probably one of the better perimeter defenders at point guard in the NBA today. So
right.
I just got to give him a slight nod. Obviously, he averaged more points this year than Ant, but I think if, like Stephen A. Smith said, if Ant becomes a more consistent jump shooter and is actually making them more, or just really better decision making in general, knowing when to take a mid range jumper or when to drive. It's like those little intangible things. Like, yeah, sure. Like Ant can be a 30-point scorer next year. Right. Like we saw like 6 of them last year. 6 guys averaged 30+ points. Why not add another guy in Anthony Edwards?
I mean, the way the league is going, the way with all this young talent coming in and stuff like that, and just the way guys are progressing, I feel like that's always going to be a number that's going to keep increasing.
It's close, but I'm going Ant.
Yeah.
I'm going Ant.
So I'm looking at I'm just kind of looking at their stats and stuff like that. Anthony Edwards is 3 years younger than him, so I underestimated how much older. Not that he's old at all. Shai Gilgeous is 25 years old. That's not old. Shai Gilgeous went from 11 points to 19 to a little under 24 to a little over 24 to 31 and a half points a game last year. And what's also crazy, he only shot 2.5 threes a game. Like he's really not like
mid range.
He's really not a big time 3-point scorer. And then Anthony Edwards, obviously, only 3 seasons, went from 19 points to 21 to almost 25 last year.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Anthony Edwards have like over 800 threes? And I think he was the fastest, youngest player to get there, or
he
something
is.
like that.
Yeah, he's like the fastest player to hit a certain amount of threes or whatever it was by a certain age. He shot. This is his career. So he shot 7.2 his first season, 8.4 the second, 7.3. He averages 7.5 threes a game, attempts a game for his career. That shout out Steph Curry. We talked about him earlier. That's the trendsetter right there. That's all because of Steph. Okay, so this last one I have for you, I will say I kind of just added this one on at the end because this one guy I wanted to throw in there, but I couldn't find a good guy to match him up with. I don't know if this is the best guy to put him up against, but we'll see. So I'm going to give you Giannis Antetokounmpo, okay? Been in the league for a little bit of not older player, but he's in his prime years now. Versus a guy who is just entering the league, but could be the perfect guy that any team would want to build around. Victor Wembanyama, 2 unicorns. Yeah, I know. Two different players, 2 different teams, scenarios. One guy hasn't even played in the NBA yet. The other guy has won a championship, MVPs, proven himself. But right now, who would you build your team around?
Yeah, I'm not going to be disrespectful. We're talking about right now. I'm gonna give it to Giannis.
Okay, all right, right now. But looking into the future, over the next few years, who would you want to build your team around? Is it still Giannis, or are you going to you have to give the nod to Victor?
I think it's an interesting conversation. I think we need to ask ourselves, how long can Giannis stay on top of this mountain, right? Because that's another guy who could be arguably the best player in the world today, if you want to go that way. Nobody would be mad at you.
People forget he put up 50 points a game, and he put up 50 points in a closing game in the NBA Finals 2 years ago.
That's literally probably the best closeout game that I've seen in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think it's fair to say that I would still give it to Giannis. I think Wemby's obviously gonna be a beast, but you remember we're on the record saying this: injuries could be the one thing that slows him down, and yada yada yada.
Absolutely,
I just need to see him play an NBA game to feel any differently. And we're talking about
the summer league wasn't enough for you.
Come on, man. we're talking about basically a kid. It's like comparing a kid to like a fully grown adult,
a puppy to a dog.
We're talking about how, SGA and Ant came into the league averaging this amount. Giannis used to be like a 60-something on a 2K, and now he's damn near 99.
He was the size of my pinky right there when he was entering the league. That's how big he was. That's how thin he was.
Honestly, so until I see a drop-off from Giannis, which I didn't see last year, he got hurt. Everybody gets hurt. It is what it is. I'm going to give it to Giannis regardless. I just have to respect it.
No, I think that's fair. Looking back on all these ones, I think I agree with you, honestly, for the most part. I mean, the Luka, I agree with. Jokic or Embiid, I think, is kind of like a coin toss. You can go either way. SGA, and I honestly think that's a tough one, bro. Like, you ended up going with Ant, but I mean, bro, I think
SGA.
Oh, you went SGA. Oh, excuse me. You went SGA, but tomorrow you could pick Ant. Like, that's the type of, like, both these guys, I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they perform next season, because I think these are 2 of, like, the youngest stars that could really just take over the NBA just like that. We saw SGA scoring 31.5 games. Anthony Edwards could come out of nowhere. He could average over 30 a game next year. Who says he doesn't, like you said earlier. And Victor, we'll see what he does, but he definitely has a lot to prove first. Giannis, he's a proven star. It's way too early. Way too early. But I had to ask. I had to ask.
I get it.
I wanted to throw Giannis in there. I couldn't think of, like, I was thinking Durant, LeBron. I could have done LeBron, honestly, but, like, because I know he's your boy, but, like, he's a little older. He's, like, 10 years older than Giannis, so I kind of figured that was a little
different conversation. I'm going to say Giannis regardless. I mean, hey, like, LeBron's only my boy because he's a Laker. Okay, let's get something out. Like, I love LeBron. I love what he did for the generation and stuff like that. But I've always been a big Kobe guy. Not saying I ever hated LeBron.
There you go.
I mean, it's hanging up, man. I've always been a big Kobe guy. It's just what it is. But yeah.
All right, beautiful. All right, we have one more game.
Nah, you know what? Let's just shelve it. We can hold
We're
it
good?
for. Yeah,
we can save that one for. I can see what it is right now, and honestly, I'm happy. We'll save it for next week. I'll have some time. I'll have some time to prepare because that we'll get into it next week.
You know, I'll literally use the same exact thing too. Like, I'll leave it like that.
I'll be studying it all week. I'll be just like before I go to bed tonight. I'll just be looking at the notes, just trying to figure it out, getting ahead of the curve. But all right, yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add before we close it out here?
I mean, not really. Again, I mean, make sure your fantasy football rosters are up to date and loaded up, man.
Ooh. Have you had a draft yet?
No, all my drafts all happen on September 3rd. So I'm in a money league where I put in $50 and the winner gets out like 1,000 or something like that. So,
brother, I have a draft on the 3rd and the 4th, both big money leagues, and I have the number 1 pick in both of them. So
what type of bullshit did you pull?
So let me tell. So in one of my leagues, we do the picks based off of records last year. So I won last year. So I had first pick. So I went with number 1. I could have gone anywhere, but if knock on wood, Justin Jefferson is the surest thing in fantasy football. And then, funny enough, so last night we decided the draft order in my college league because we don't do it like that. We do it random every year. We did a duck race. There's a website where you put your names in. It's like some ducks, and it's just a 10-second race. So it was 12 of us, and I came in first. So I got the number 1 pick.
That's so crazy.
Some bullshit. Yeah, I know. I couldn't believe it. I was like, all right, Justin Jefferson's really going to be he also one more thing. I'm in a sleeper league. Not sleeper. It's on the sleeper app. I'm in a dynasty league. So it's like you draft once and kind of like it carries over. Justin Jefferson's on that team as well. So I'm going to be I'm going to be watching every Vikings game. Me and you, Jerry, we're going to be watching Vikings games this year, bro. I'm going to be the biggest Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson fan this year. Kirk Cousins is going to have an MVP year, bro. I'm telling you.
Now you sound like Michael Irvin now. Let's calm down.
I have to have that confidence. I need it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode of Sitting Courtside. Make sure to follow us on our socials. Make sure to follow Sitting Courtside everywhere on social media. Look us up. We are on there. Subscribe, like this video, check out all the other podcast episodes on this platform. Also, listen to us on audio platforms. If you're not watching here on YouTube and you want to just listen to us, on the way to work, on the way back, whatever it may be, check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. We are on there. And until next time, until episode 6. I think that's it.
Parting shot before we do get out of here, before we call it here.
Yes,
I just want to say, if you guys have any questions or you want us to debate something or you have a hot take, hit us up on Twitter and all those sites that Dante just mentioned and we can get to it, man. We could give you a shout out. We've been getting NBA players that don't even know a shout out, so why not you?
Yes, sir. We want to get the fans involved as much as we can. Like Jerry said, comment, check us out, leave us a comment, give us your hot takes, this and that. Till next time, peace out.